Live show on YouTube, Into the Fringe, where we discuss lost civilizations, UFOs, cryptids, unsolved mysteries, megalithic structures, extraterrestrials, interdimensional portals, time skips, and more. Don't change that channel, because now you are leaving the mainstream and entering into the fringe. Well, greetings, followers. It is I, Cardinal Sin, and welcome to another episode of Into the Fringe. And our guest today is Albert Rosales. And I will tell you a little bit about Albert. He is an author, investigator, and researcher, and his area of expertise is humanoid encounters. Today we'll be diving into his book, Humanoid Encounters: The Others Among Us, 2016 to 2019. Born in Cuba, Albert Rosales migrated to the U.S. in 1966. He has had several unusual incidents as a young man while living in Cuba, and such incidents continued as an adult in the U.S. Rosales became interested in unusual phenomena and UFOs at a young age, but soon directed his focus to the crux of the phenomena, the humanoids, entities, extraterrestrials, UFOnauts, etc. He began collecting data on such encounters from worldwide sources in the late 80s. He has a current database of close to 30,000 entries, which is updated and corrected daily, and has published 16 books to date. Welcome back, my friend Albert Rosales, to Into the Fringe.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. It's,
always a pleasure.
Great to be back.
Always a pleasure. And while folks are rolling in, I just wanted to mention that Albert is giving away a ebook of his a book that we're going to be dipping into tonight, Humanoid Encounters: The Others Among Us, from 2016 to 2019.
Yes.
And thank you. That's very generous. I first ran across Albert's online database of humanoid encounters. And if you know how people can get addicted to like streaming shows on TV, I was stuck reading these entries for 3 days straight. I couldn't tear myself away, and I didn't even scratch the surface. So for now, Albert's books are available on Amazon. And remember, folks, stay to the end of the show when we'll be giving away an autographed copy of Albert's book from tonight. And you have to be present in the chat to be eligible to win. And a little bit of a trigger warning here. Albert always brings the spooky, which is one reason he's a fan favorite. But many of these cases, while not necessarily involving violence, can be scary and even terrifying. This is not creepypasta. These are actual documented cases. So you have been warned. Now, Albert, while we're waiting for folks to roll in, can you tell us about the different case types, what they mean, where they come from, and which ones you added?
Well, the case types this originated with Allen Hynek. He's a famous one of the first ufologists, and he had a case system which he had close encounters of the first kind. Well, nocturnal lights, daylight disc, encounters of the first, second, and third kind, and fourth kind later on. I concentrate my research on the third kind encounters and fourth kind. I added a couple other, type of encounters. There's different types. Uh, the close encounter of the third kind, there's type A, which is when entities or aliens or humanoids are seen aboard or on a UFO, the submarine, or on the ground. Type B, when they're seen coming in and out of the object. Type C, when there's a UFO nearby and entities nearby, but not seen going in and out of the object. Then after that, you got type D, when there's a flap of UFO sightings in the area and somebody encounters some kind of entity around in the area, which is assumed is connected to the activity, the UFO activity. Then we have type E, which is very common. That's when we have, for example, bedroom visitation, an entity seen alone in the woods, or I include the Men in Black encounters there. Type of entity seen, but no UFO seen in connection.
Right.
After that, of course, you have the F, which is a psychic, kind of a psychic encounter. Like if you see a UFO and there's some kind of mental connection, or there's telepathy between you and the UFO. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily the alien is not necessarily seen, but some kind of telepathy involved, communication. Yeah. After that, you have, of course, the abduction cases, which have become more common now. One thing I have learned, that a lot of the original close encounters of third kind were actually abductions. Years later, people really, after regression, or they realize that they remember what really happened. And after that, I added type X, which is really high strangeness cases that don't fit in the mold with the other ones. Very, very high strangeness. Many of those too. These might include entities or not. Then there's also, which I included, type H, which is a recovery of a crashed UFO, or a capture of an entity, or a humanoid, like in Brazil back in 1996, Barguinha, Brazil. Now after that, I included type I, which is an injury or death caused by an encounter with a UFO. Sadly, we have some cases like that. And after that, I have another which I included, type U, A, which is an unknown animal, some type of like giant bird, or some type of, not necessarily a humanoid, but some kind of a weird animal reported, either out of place or prehistoric animal, or flying, like the pterodactyls that have been seen
right
in many places. Yeah.
Does that include the Mothman and that kind of
No,
thing?
I include the Mothman and the humanoid type, and type
Okay.
E, because they're more like humanoid and they're more closely related to UFOs.
All righty. Well, we do have a lot of cases to get in today, so we're going to dive right in. We do have a lot of folks in the chat. I wanted to remind folks that in the second hour, we will be taking questions from the chat. So if you have questions, write them down and let us know in our second hour. And again, our giveaway is 2 copies of today's book.
It'll be an
by
ebook.
Albert.
Ebook.
They're ebooks. Yeah. And we're going to give away 2, correct?
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
So this first one I'll start with.
Okay, go ahead.
It's from Tarzali, Queensland, Australia. The date is 2016. The time is various. A local woman says that her family was tormented by yowies after they'd moved there into a new home, and that at one point she saw a mysterious entity lurking alongside the creatures. According to Jackie Liveridge, it all began when they rented a cottage in the town of Tarzali, and immediately felt like something was amiss. The first sign of strangeness, Liveridge said, was when someone or something began throwing rocks onto the roof of the home. Shortly thereafter, her son was on the outside at night and heard a very loud demonic animal growl. The family subsequently spent the next few months in a state of unease as they felt as if they were being watched by an unseen observer and often heard the sound of something sizable moving around outside the home. Liveridge's tale culminated with a truly jaw-dropping incident in which she was outside at night and heard someone walking. She quickly turned a flashlight toward the noise and was astounded to spot a creature that was pitch black, hairy, and the size of a chimpanzee. Before Liveridge could process what she was seeing, she realized that there were two other sets of glowing eyes, which suggested that the mysterious creature was not alone. Based on the height of the eye shine, she said it appeared that the creature's companions were considerably bigger than it was, and she surmised that this was probably a family of Yowies. Liveridge managed to get a good look at the trio, observing that they walked with big, long strides, seemed to have arms longer than a human's, and sharp black nails. As one can imagine, the witness was terrified and ran back to the cottage, which she and her family moved out of a few weeks later. While her story would be strange as it is, the account reportedly got exceptionally weirder by way of a follow-up article from an Australian newspaper in which Liveridge said that the trio of Yowies were not alone. Quote, "There was another creature with them," close quote, she explained. "He was a strange-looking pale white guy like the one all over the internet, referring to a hoaxed demon image that went viral in 2010. Describing the features of this entity, she said that the eyes were sunken and hollow, but they never glowed. They were completely black." And this is a type E encounter.
Correct. That's a very good Australian accent there.
I try. And this one is from Tim Binal.
Right, in Coast to Coast.
Of Binal of America.
Yes. And
so I'll let you tell us anything more about that case and move on to the second one.
Well, Yowies are what is the equivalent to Bigfoot or Sasquatch here in the U.S.
It's Australian for Bigfoot.
Yeah, correct. Okay, the next one, we're going to England, the UK, a place called Melt. I'm sorry, I can't do a.
Now you have to do your best British accent.
No, I can't do it. A place called Melton Mowbray in Leicestershire, England.
Leicestershire.
Yeah, Leicestershire. Look at, I was able to pronounce that. January 2nd, 2016. Time was 5:15 a.m. Family had recently moved to their current location and had lived there for 2 months. But just this week, they have noticed their large back gate being open some morning, but cannot work how it happened, as it all shut down every night. They also noticed this morning a circle of disturbed gravel in the back garden directly below their daughter's bedroom window. They believe their daughter was visited in the early hours in the morning. She ran to them at 5:15 a.m., bursting through the door. She was shaking with adrenaline, and her heart was beating very fast. Her eyes were wide, and she straight away started reeling off how they had been spacemen, quote, in her bedroom. She described the pretty lights, quote, that she saw out of the window, and she accurately described the being in her room. She said he woke her up and was standing at the end of her bed against the wall. She said he had 2 arms and 2 legs like us, very tall and really white in color. She commented a few times how very white he was. She had a beloved rabbit that she takes to bed every night, and she told her parents how, and she said they told her that they didn't want her teddy, they wanted her. She was quite nervous and kept looking out the parents' window and back at the bedroom door. She also mentioned other smaller black beings and shadow man. She says that they went out her window when they left. She slept in her parents' bed for the first time in 4 years after that. The young witness added that the aliens had communicated to her and told her that they will come back and that they have been to Africa. I wonder why they had to tell her that. And were from the moon and wanted her to meet their family. The girl's mother points out that all this was out of character for her daughter and had never heard her speak how she she was doing it that morning. Uh, I mean, sometimes I think the aliens give up bogus information, if you ask me.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
They're worse about disinformation than the Air Force.
yeah.
And what kind of encounter is that?
Type E, bedroom visitation type. Okay, the next
Okay.
one is good for you. You're gonna like the next one. Yeah.
All right. This one is from Barnard Way, Cannock, Staffordshire, England. And I'll spare the audience my bad English accent. And I apologize to any Australians that may have heard my voice. That was an absolutely horrid imitation. Okay, the date here is January 8th of 2016. The time is 2:35 a.m. The witness always walked through there when his shift finished at work. Every 3 weeks, he had to work late. This one night, he was about halfway home, walking through Barnard Way, when he saw a girl just standing in the middle of the road in front of him. There were some houses on his right-hand side and a small field on his left. All the lights were off in the houses as it was so late. The girl shocked him because he'd been walking with his head down, listening to music, so he didn't even notice her until she was about 10 feet away. He stopped instantly when he saw her because if he'd carried on walking, he'd have bumped into her about 3 seconds later. He stopped to let her pass. It was only then that his eyes focused on hers properly and he realized something wasn't right. This girl was about 10 years old and she looked ill. Her skin was really pale, her hair looked like she never washed it, and her clothes were filthy. He was about to call a homeless shelter or something until he noticed her eyes. They were like deep holes in her face, totally black. It was like she didn't even have eyes at all. Just this abyss that seemed to carry on forever and never let any light in. His heart began to beat fast. He asked if she was okay, still standing frozen in position, and didn't say a word. She didn't move at all. She just stood there for a moment and then lifted her left arm to shoulder height and pointed at him. When she did that, he flew backward. It was like someone massive had just punched him in the chest. His feet definitely left the ground as he fell over backward and landed on his behind. He finally got back up to his feet and didn't know if he was knocked out for a little while or not. He looked around for the black-eyed child and she was gone. According to the witness, he found a purple stain on the white shirt he was wearing that night in exactly the position where he felt the force strike. He tried getting it out over and over to no avail. And the source for this one is Lee Brickley, The Black-Eyed Children of Cannock Chase, a continued investigation into England's strangest location, Cannock Chase. Reports
Yes.
of BEKs, Black-Eyed Kids, paranormal books about the Cannock Chase, etc. And what sort of encounter is this?
This is another type E encounter. Is I guess I will include the black-eyed kids in the humanoid, lonely humanoid, and category.
Okay.
Kind of violent encounter, if you ask me. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Here that we go to the next one. We go to California. There's an image there. We go to La Quinta, California, February 1st, 2016, in the morning. A man who worked at a hardware store in the plant department, brother died unexpectedly. 2 days later, he returned to work, very depressed because his family, who are Catholic, were denied giving the brother a traditional burial service because the wife, the deceased brother, was a Hopi Indian, and he was cremated. That's kind of weird. When he arrived at the store, he noticed a very tall blonde woman. She was almost 8 feet tall. And he passed her and said good morning, and immediately noticed her unusual large, bright blue eyes. 5 minutes later, she approached him and asked him if his name was Fernando. He said yes. She introduced herself as Jessica, said she was a medium and that his brother contacted her and asked her to give him a message, which was that he was okay and was with his mother and sister. Fernando asked how she knew where he worked, and she said his brother had directed her. He asked her where she lived, and she said, up in the mountains. Quote, he then asked her for a business card. She didn't have any, but said if his brother contacted her again, she will let him know and left. Fernando's never saw her again. But I included this because blonde woman with bright blue eyes, 8 feet tall. That's kind of a humanoid there encounter, maybe a Nordic type. Kind
Yeah,
of
8 feet tall is that's
yeah,
about as tall as we've covered so far, I think.
yeah, taller ones, but yeah, that one's pretty tall.
All right, so this is the next one here.
The next one, yeah.
And this location is Salvatierra de Mino, Pontevedra, Spain, March 2016, time 1800 hours. The witness, Nahir Rodriguez, was standing in the porch at her family's chalet located in a locality called Acaja Corzans when she observed out of the corner of her eye something moving through the garden. Turning to look, she was able to see a strange creature walking slowly toward the nearby hedge. According to Rodriguez, the creature seemed deformed and only about 1 meter in height, chubby in appearance, with a round, bald head which was in disproportion to the rest of its body. Rodriguez said that the creature was walking clumsily with its arms extended toward the front. Its skin was pink in color, similar to strawberry gum. It was hairless and it was completely wrinkled. The experience lasted only a few seconds as the witness became frightened and ran quickly inside the house in a state of panic, locking the door behind her. I can't blame her. Minutes later, she looked out the window, but the mysterious creature had vanished. And this is from Marcelino Requejo, right?
Yeah, his book in Spanish is called Más allá de lo sobrenatural. Is beyond the supernatural, if you translate it to the English. It's a book that he wrote recently.
That's and you translated that one, right?
Yeah, I translate all the.
That's Spanish, directly from the
book
Encounter.
Yes.
The Encounterer, I guess.
Yes, and
right.
I'll take the next one. The next one near Portland, Oregon, April 19, again 2016, around 1800, 6 p.m. According to Jacob Hostin, a strawberry farmer, around 6 p.m. he was walking around his strawberry field when he saw a strange person seemingly picking up some fruit. As he got a little closer, he yelled to get his attention. That's when he realized he wasn't human. According to the farmer, the being wore a tight black outfit and was bald. His eyes were normal, and his body was very thin and slender. As soon as he heard the scream, he ran through the plantation until he reached a nearby slope where he disappeared. Austin ran after it, but he didn't see anything else. The strange thing is that same night, around 10 p.m., Austin saw a light rising from the same slope towards which the being had disappeared to. The light accelerated towards the horizon and was lost from sight. This one was strangely enough, in a Brazilian website, citing a Oregon news source, which did not specify. But this will be like a type C, because there's a UFO, maybe even type D, a UFO in the area, and there's a humanoid seen in the area also. Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Ooh, the next one is going back to England again. There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, this one is from Kirkby, Knowsley, Merseyside, England. That's in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And the date is July 2016, 1900 hours. A local man, Stephen, took his dog out in broad daylight for its daily 5-mile walk. My God. He usually took the dog out at 10, but it was late on this occasion because he had to look after a sick relative. Steve walked from his home in Simpsonwood with his pet and went to Stopgate Lane and onto Sinacre Lane, and he had just passed a secluded semi in this rustic route when his dog began to act strangely. It made yelping sounds and kept looking at the low hedge, which forms a border between the road and a vast expanse of farmland. He asked his dog what was wrong and bent over to give him a reassuring pat on the head when he heard a rhythmical thumping noise sound like distant industrial machinery. Steve straightened up, and there, coming across the field toward him, was the metallic figure from a nightmare, a robot of some sort. And Steve estimates that its height must have been about 7 to 8 feet at least. It had a bucket-shaped head and a grayish body that resembled a suit of armor with circular joints at the shoulders, elbows, and knees. The dog was so scared it bolted off back down the lane, and its leash slipped out of Steve's hand. Steve, by his own admission, is overweight, and as he ran off, he soon found himself out of breath and was even unable to shout after the frightened dog as it fled down the road. Steve looked back and saw the gigantic robot standing there with one foot over the hedge and the other in the field, and it was watching him as he now trotted away. Steve then noticed that about a quarter of a mile away in the field the thing was standing in, there was a craft about two bowls that resembled two bowls with their open rims stuck together. It must have been about 100 feet across, and Steve thinks he saw two tiny figures standing next to the unearthly craft. He kept looking back at the robot and the unidentified structure on the farmland until he found his dog cowering under a hedge at the junction of Stopgate and Sidling Lane. He then looked back and saw the craft, perhaps a landed UFO, and the gigantic robot had gone. And this is a Type C encounter. Now, Albert, it seems like this could be categorized in a couple different categories.
Well, there's a UFO nearby, and there's entities seen in the vicinity, so that's definitely Type C. Now, the robot could be a Type E, but let's assume that robot was connected to the UFO. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Where would it come from? Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Boy, I'm glad you're taking this next one.
Well, there we go. The next one is we got to go to 2017, a place called Codao, Pelmo, region of Puma, O'Higgins, Chile. At night, a man named Mario was on his way home when he suddenly felt a very cold gust of wind from above. And then a large winged creature appeared before him. The creature was about 1.5 to 2 meters in height, winged, no feathers, and resembled a cross between a bird and an animal, according to him. Quote, "It stared at the witness in a possible attempt to hypnotize him," he thought. Quote, "The creature also emitted a very strong, disagreeable odor." Stunned, Mario fell backwards and received a strong blow in the neck area with what appeared to be claws by the creature. Screaming, he is then assisted by a rural laborer that was nearby, who also saw the creature. Later that night, several carabineros, which is the equivalent to police officers in the area, responded to the scene and also reportedly saw the creature at a distance. This is we are stunning because there's a obvious aggressive behavior on the part of a winged humanoid type of Mothman type creature. And this is from a website it's Eugenio Tate. He's an investigator from South America. He collects a lot of reports from a lot of winged humanoid encounters.
And I just wanted to say thank you to some folks that have become channel members and sponsors. And before that, Dalek 451 said, Kirkby, Merseyside. That's so close to where I live.
Yeah. Dalek. I love the Daleks.
Dalek.
Yeah.
And Arc 0606 became a sponsor. Thank you. And Cam just became a sponsor. Thank you. Joe Salazar just became a sponsor. Much appreciated. The lovely Sherry is here and became a sponsor. And I want to say thank you with this video.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Marden, and you are watching Into the Fringe. Thank you for supporting this channel.
All right. So we will
Kathleen Marden.
and continue on and make sure we have everything up to speed. Read Speed 77 is here. Says, greetings, gentlemen. Albert, this is incredibly good research. Much appreciated. And Herc 130, Radioactive says to Herc 130, just paying it forward. All right, let's go ahead and get on to the next case. If my mouse will work. All right, and this one, we seem to be on the wrong one here because we keep getting the. Oh, this is the one from Oklahoma. Okay.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Broken Arrow was the name of my my grade school, actually.
Broken Arrow was when I was in the Navy. If you had a broken arrow, that means that there was
a nuclear
missing
nuclear
nuclear thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is early 2017, around midnight. Two witnesses were walking home around midnight. They were on the main road about 100 yards from their neighborhood entrance. There was a street light close by and a big field going into the woods behind it. The field and the woods were basically black, but one of the witnesses saw a being behind it. Saw a being that was so black that its body contrasted against the blackness of the night. I've experienced that before. It is very, very creepy.
Scary,
It was around 14 feet tall. Holy cow.
Yeah.
And super skinny. It looked like a stick figure. It had glowing dark red eyes. It cleared 2 lanes in the middle of the road and 2 steps. It took another step and disappeared. Only one of the witnesses saw it, and he gasped and froze in his tracks. He could not speak for 30 seconds, and his friend had to walk him home. And this is from Odd and Chilling Encounters Part 2, True Stories of the Unknown, and it's a Type E encounter.
Type E, yeah. It's a stick figure type. Those are weird encounters always.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the different humanoids that you bring on always freak me out.
Yeah, I like to mix them in, little black-eyed kids, 14 foot tall stick figures, whatever.
It's crazy.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We go now to Russia, a place called Elo in the Altai Mountains, Siberia. Excuse me. The end of November 2017 afternoon, a local resident walking his livestock reported seeing on the ice of a frozen river a luminous disc-shaped object. According to the witness, near the object were 3 small beings about 60 centimeters tall, remotely resembling people. They communicated with each other through sounds resembling shrill women's voices. Quote, the witness hurriedly left the scene and went to the village for help. Upon returning to the scene after an hour, nothing was found. The next day, traces of unknown origin, presumably from the object, were found on the ice. A circle of molten ice with a diameter of 3 meters, as well as small 3-toed tracks resembling that of birds. Let's assume these were from the humanoid. The whole landing site was exposed to an extremely high temperature, which melted ice and snow. The local newspaper, Ahuda, claims that several other witnesses saw UFOs at night, described as luminous objects flying over the village. And this is from a Siberian ufologist, Valery Smirnov. He emphasizes that the Altai region there, Siberia, quote, is a place of power which attracts alien visitors, close quote.
Wow. Okay, we're about to get back into the creepy here.
Creepo.
So take a gander at this lovely face that only a mother could love. Now, you're going to have to help me with the name. Is this Naguabu?
The name of the location is Naguabu in Puerto Rico, yes.
Okay. And the date is December 2017. Time 2130 to 2200 hours. The witness, who was involved in other encounters, returning home after visiting his father in the El Duque neighborhood. As he reached his destination, he suddenly saw something huge and brown in color standing in the middle of the road. He stopped his vehicle and honked a horn, so what he initially thought was a large dog would move out of the way. But the figure, whatever it was, did not move. So the witness exited his vehicle and threw a rock at the figure so it would move. To his great surprise, what he thought was a dog suddenly stood up on two legs, and now he could see what it really was. He could not believe what he was looking at. Standing in front of him was a creature about 7 feet tall, standing on two legs like a person, but its legs seemed to be curved with three claw-like protrusions in the feet. Its whole body was covered in short, dark brown hair. It had very strong-looking arms with four-fingered hands with claws. The head was more or less like that of a human, but its face looked like what the witness described as a ferret, with a protruding snout and short ears. The eyes were completely black, slightly slanted, and not that large. Upon seeing the creature, afraid for his safety, the witness began to take out his firearm, but something told him not to do it, as the creature was very big, and if he missed, it might attack him. The witness and the creature stared at each other for several seconds, and then the creature walked away at a leisurely pace and disappeared into the brush. He then drove home and told his wife what he had seen. She asked him why he hadn't shot it. He answered that he couldn't do it as he was afraid that the creature would attack him. The witness added that the creature was certainly a mixture between human and animal, and its actions showed intelligence. And this is a type E encounter.
Type E encounter. This is from researcher Jorge Martin Miranda from Puerto Rico. We communicate a lot with each other, and he sends me a lot of reports.
Yeah, he's sent reports that we've talked about on the show before.
Yeah. Ready for the next one then? Okay.
Yeah.
We're move on to Peru, South America, a place called Uchiza in San Martin. 2018. I guess there were several encounters. This is kind of weird. This is more like a. Well, I'll read it and let you.
Kind of weird. Well, when you're on the show, we call that Thursday.
A man named Gabriel, a member of the Peruvian Armed Forces, had a friend in the army by the name of Franklin Pacaya, who lived with his parents in the Uchiza region there in Peru. Pacaya's parents then invited Gabriel and Franklin over to their home to stay for a week. However, when they arrived at the location, Pacaya's parents looked confused and told Gabriel that they were surprised that he had returned soon. Quote, since apparently he had only left the day before. This other person, or copy of Gabriel, had stayed with Pacaya's parents for 3 weeks. The Gabriel lookalike will usually go into the jungle for long periods of time and then return with presents, quote, for the family. So Gabriel and Franklin decided to lay in wait for the stranger to return. 2 days later, the other Gabriel, I guess we're talking about doppelganger here, arrived. Gabriel was stunned when he saw him, as he looked exactly as he did. The hair, the way he walked, everything. When the stranger saw Gabriel and Franklin, he ran into the jungle and never returned again. So we have something here camouflaging of somebody as a human. I don't know. It could have been an ET or a doppelganger, but what are doppelgangers? I don't know. This is from the Eugenio Tate. He's an investigator in South America. He has investigated many cases similar to that. People that, for some reason, they encounter their exact images and stuff like that. Weird.
Yeah, the doppelganger reports really freak me out. They happen more often than people imagine.
Yes.
And they're reported at least as much as regular UFO sightings and things like that. But they are definitely spooky.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this next one is in San Martin, Peru. correct?
No, that's the one I just read. The next,
Oh,
you
okay.
go to scroll down to the.
That's why I asked. Okay, this one is in Posadas Misiones, Argentina,
You got it.
January 2018. The time 13 to 1400 hours. The witness, an anonymous 68-year-old retired teacher, was taking a nap with her husband one afternoon when she suddenly woke up to see a strange figure standing next to the bed, intently staring at her sleeping husband next to her. I hate it when that happens. She described the figure as about 1.8 meters tall, human-like, muscular, with beautiful human facial features, but with a deep black color skin. The figure was wearing a skin-tight vinyl-like coverall. His hair was black and it seemed to be braided. As she stared at the figure in awe, she suddenly realized that she was looking at him and it turned directly at her.
Yeah, the figure realized that it was being watched. Yeah.
Okay. She was so stunned to see that his eyes were deep set and bright red in color. The figure then moved out of the line of sight and then inexplicably vanished. Strangely, the witness did not wake her husband and went back to sleep. She felt no fear during the encounter and points out that the being stared at her with total indifference and tranquility. And this is a type E case.
Yeah, veteran visitation.
And this next one takes us back to Staffordshire.
There we go. England. And this one's another weird one. A place called Gorthmore Lane, Heath Hayes in Staffordshire, England. January 13, 2018, around 5 a.m. The witness was walking his dog down Gorthmore Lane right by the school when he had an encounter with the black-eyed child. She appeared from behind a bush at the bottom of the school and seemed to float out into the middle of the path. His dog was terrified, and she's never usually scared of anything. The dog shivered behind him, pressed against the back of his leg. The floating girl just stopped in the middle of the path, so he will have no choice but to walk into her if he hadn't stopped. Her eyes were pitch black like coal, and she was wearing a sort of little girl's maid outfit. She wouldn't have looked out of place in a TV program like Downton Abbey or something similar, but her clothes were very dirty. While there was no light at all coming from her eyes, the girl opened her mouth, and a blinding light shot out that almost made the witness fall over. It struck him in the face like a brick. Quote. He had not been expecting it. The light was so bright that it took around 30 seconds for him to relax his eyes and clear his vision. When he did that, the girl was gone, or so he thought. He suddenly felt someone breathing down his neck. He spun around in an instant and saw the girl was now hovering about 2 feet off the floor directly behind him. When he spun around, he was face to face with her. He saw her mouth opening again, so he closed his eyes in an anticipation of the bright light, but there was no light. Instead, he heard her speak. He couldn't tell what she was saying, but it was something about rain. When he opened his eyes again, she was gone. He had not seen her since after that. This is again from Lee Brickley, The Black-Eyed Child of Cannock Chase. He wrote a book about that. So he has several really weird cases. Because, we hear about black-eyed kids, but this was different. This is open his mouth and a bright light comes out. Strange.
Yeah, that's really strange. It's almost like science fiction, really. I mean, a lot of these tales could be called close to science fiction, but that one's kind of even more way out than normal.
The truth is stranger than fiction, like I say.
It is. I'm telling you. So this next one, the location is Punta Carreño, Algeciras, Cadiz, Spain, and the date is February 2018, time 2:45 a.m. A couple traveling under a heavy downpour on a side road decide to turn around and go back to town. As they approached a local army base, they both saw a very tall, 2-meter, hunched over figure walking on the side of the road heading in their direction. As they approached to within several meters of the creature, they illuminated it with the high beams and were shocked to notice that the creature lacked any facial features and had an oval-shaped, shiny head. It seemed to attempt to cover itself from the bright beams. The strange humanoid had long, dangling arms and had been taking long strides. It wore a sort of red vest with a belt and a strange hat. The figure then turned and disappeared into the thick underbrush. The terrified witnesses drove away from the area.
Yeah, this one from Spanish researchers Jordi Ariza and Joaquin Abenza. They're very known over there in Spain, especially Abenza. He's written a couple books. So this is a type E encounter, a lone humanoid walking down the middle of the road. All right, that's the image for the next one. Kind of weird. Okay, so now we go to Poland. I'm going to murder the name, but it's Budziwocz and the Rzeszów region of Poland. February 15, 2018, in the afternoon. The witness of the incident, a woman named Monica, had on February 10th observed two luminous spheres hovering over the nearby hills around 10:10 p.m. The spheres approached the witness' house as Monica noticed behind the window 2 points of light. These spheres were smaller than usual and hovered at an entrance gate at a height of about 160 to 180 centimeters. Unfortunately, when she aimed the camera at them, they disappeared. The day before the above encounter, Monica had heard a strange metallic shuffle, quote, in her room, and saw a strange flash of light from an undetermined source. This happened always when she was alone in the house. On the above date, which is February 15, on the above day before the encounter, Monica states that she had been experiencing a feeling of joy and euphoria. As she worked in her computer, she suddenly felt a source of heat and a strong feeling that she could not control come over her. After a short moment, she saw a sort of screen which seemed transparent, and behind it, she saw some entities remarkably like humans. One stood at the front, the rest just behind them. There were several of them. She saw 5, but there could have been more behind them. But the light prevented her from seeing any more details. The figures were dressed in white and had long, straight blonde hair. The white of their outfits was very bright, indeed luminous, like the screen. The figure at the front was female, and she was looking at Monica. This figure blinked and nodded slightly. It was all very delicate and subtle, graceful. It looked like a greeting. Monica did not speak. She just stared at the screen and figures. The experience was positive. She felt no fear, nor did they do anything to frighten her. The moment she saw them, she began to feel their emotions telepathically, quote. They did not communicate verbally. Monica felt strong love and a sense of security. Whatever questions she had in her head, the answer came immediately. She did not have to ask any questions. After a few moments, the figures began to fade, and the screen began to become more and more distant. Though the feeling of love remained. Moments later, the screen disappeared. The feeling of love and warmth also vanished. For a long time afterwards, Monica doubted if it was worth talking about it. In her mind, the whole incident was, quote, crazy, unquote. According to Monica, the entities were remarkably like humans. They had similar proportions, only slightly more elongated. They looked neat and clean. Their hair was simple and clear, eyes bright and large. Monica felt love emanating from the eyes of the female being, but also concern as well as caution towards her. Their movements were terribly slow, delicate, and subtle. Monica had the feeling, even though the screen was in front of her, that they were looking at her from a different perspective, somehow as if, quote, time had jumped ahead where they were, unquote. It's very difficult to describe. Monica says that she told the soul that she was told, I'm sorry, that the soul was immortal and can travel into other dimensions, and sometimes regardless of whether they're quote good or bad unquote during life, they could be captured quote by other beings. This concerned Monica, but they calmed her down, telling her that she did not have to understand everything yet. Quote, that time will come. End quote. They also warned Monica that in our world there were many evil beings that loved to impersonate the good. They told her to remain vigilant and keep her faith in God. This is from Polish researcher Arek Miazga from his blogspot. He has written several books, which I have copies of the ebooks. He has investigated a lot of humanoid encounters from Poland.
Yeah, he's a good researcher.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, so for this one here, this is the one in Arek Miazga, correct?
No, that's the one I read. The Arek Miazga one.
Okay.
You go, just scroll down, and that's the.
Gotcha.
You have an image there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and put this one up, and this one is, if I can find it, near La Caldera, Salta, Argentina, spring of 2018 at nighttime. At a rural home located across from Campo Alguere Dam, the owner of the house witnessed an extremely strange being slowly walking down the street at a little over 5 meters from her wire mesh fence. The creature looked at her fixedly and was no taller than 1.5 meters. Its overall appearance was human in the sense that it walked erect and had 2 arms and 2 legs, but the body and extremities were very thin, like the branches of a plant, according to the startled woman. She only saw the being walk past. There was no light or sound involved, nothing else to report. It was an otherwise quiet night. She was very frightened, and she was alone. She brought her dogs inside and locked herself in. And that's a type of encounter.
Yeah, this was in the an Explicata blogspot, and this is direct from Argentina researcher Guillermo Jimenez from the Planeta UFO group. Okay.
And we do have a question. The Lost Tale says, question for Albert. Do mermaids count as humanoids? If so, have you seen the recent videos of supposed mermaids? I have seen a few. Crazy stuff.
I do consider mermaids as humanoid type. I haven't seen the videos, but most of the images that I see of supposedly mermaids, I take them with a grain of salt. I don't know if they're real.
The only ones that I've seen are the dead ones.
Yeah, and they don't.
I
look
think it's an artist that puts fish parts together with fake. He makes the human parts and puts them together.
Yeah, but I do consider mermaids as humanoids, and there have been many encounters with mermaids.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this one is near Sochi, Krasnodar region, Russia. Date 2018 March, and the time is 2:30 a.m. The fall of a disc-shaped object about 20 meters in diameter with portholes along the perimeter of the upper part of the dome was observed by local residents and summer residents. At the time of the crash, a seismic shock was felt. By morning, the disaster area was cordoned off by the military. The summer residents who made their way around the cordon found a clearing on which there was a disc that had crashed into the ground. He was then surrounded by soldiers in chemical protection suits. There were also armored personal carriers and a military helicopter. Supposedly, the disc and its crew were taken out by the military to an unknown location. And the source on this is Edward, Aegon, and Anton Anfalov, Heavenly Angels or Hellhounds. And this is the Type H encounter.
Which is a recovery of a crash UFO. And this case is a recent case. Anfalov, he sent me a copy of his ebook. It's in Russian. I had to translate it, Google. But he specializes in crash UFO cases. And this is one that he recently, according to him, he investigated. He's been trying to get more information on it, but that's about it so far. I thought I included a crash UFO type in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, the next one, we go to Elkhorn, Nebraska, March 3rd, 2018, 23:30. A witness reported watching, quote, disc of light, a disc of light, unquote, unquote, followed by their vehicle being engulfed in light and a possible alien encounter, according to their testimony. The witness was out driving in search of UFOs, actually. I guess he found them. This was probably his 100th search for UFOs since about 2001. He had gone out driving near his home every once in a while. He had never before this encountered anything more than a probably misidentified ball of light. The witness was driving in a remote area of rural Douglas County, somewhere to the north of Elkhorn. When he first noticed the object, it was a disc of light in the sky off to the west. It disappeared after approximately 5 seconds. Approximately 30 seconds later, his car was engulfed in light. Almost immediately afterwards, a large 18-wheeler size disc of light, similar to an incandescent ball warm light, had landed in front of him. About after a minute, a bright blue ball, then varying shape or of light or entity, he's not sure what it was, appeared in his car on the passenger seat next to him. So it's like some kind of blue shape appeared next to him. It was about 6 feet tall and irregular shape. The being, question mark, we don't know if it was a being, constantly varied in shape, although more or less taking the shape of the seat it was on. However, it never was anything other than a blue light. About 30 seconds later, his car overheated, stopped, and nearly injured him. As soon as the car began to become insanely hot, the alien and light disappeared. The temperature, according to the meter of the car, reached 114 degrees. He needed to open the door, which was now possible with the lack of a UFO. He was able to open it. He could not remember 1 hour after the incident, or I guess he had an hour missing time.
Uh-oh. Well,
Yeah.
we know what that means. And what type of case is this?
That'll be like a type G, possible abduction, since he claims there's an hour of missing time, and whatever that was engulfed his vehicle, and something was with him, and maybe there's a missing time. This is from an investigator from MUFON, Kyle Finley from Nebraska MUFON state director.
Yeah, that's just north of Kansas.
Yeah.
I've been to Omaha for a 40 convention where I met Carla Turner and Katharina Wilson, and had lunch with
Carla
Kevin,
Turner.
Kevin Randall. Yeah. We became fast friends and wrote each other, and that's when I was putting on UFO lectures here in Lawrence. And I have a scrapbook with a Post-it note that she attached to a letter asking when I was going to bring her to town to do a lecture. And then she died very quickly thereafter from a fast-acting cancer.
Unexpectedly, yeah.
Yeah. I got the postcard that she was, trying to fight this really fast-acting cancer, and by the time I responded, she was already dead, unfortunately. On a more positive note, this next case is from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is familiar to many of us. The date is April 2018, time night. The witness, Jennifer, was awakened from her sleep by a pair of pale kids with huge dark eyes. One of them pointed to one of the walls in Jennifer's bedroom, which was suddenly transformed into an approximately 8-foot by 8-foot image of a nuclear explosion. Jennifer told the source that, for reasons she wasn't sure of, she somehow knew that the city was Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She has never been to Milwaukee, nor does she have any friends nor any family there. And this comes to us by Nick Redfern.
Yeah, Time Travel, his book called Time Travel, The Real Unexplained Collection. And this is kind of weird. I wish there were more information on that, but again, another black-eyed kid encounter, but with a different feel to it. It's not your run-of-the-mill black-eyed kid encounter.
I thought black-eyed children had to be invited in.
Yeah, I guess these two didn't. Who knows? Just like the vampire of old.
And Respeed 77 says 30 years into the subject, and Albert's comparative UFO history is the best I've come across.
Thank you.
And of course, Canadian Spider-Man reminds us that Jennifer Lawrence discovered Milwaukee. Okay.
All right. The next one, I'll take the next one we go to Vancouver. There you go. It's Canadian Spider-Man near, that's your area, British Columbia, Canada. May 17, 2018, time, 1600 hours. The witness was walking downstairs into the kitchen when he heard a weird scratching sound outside the kitchen window. He looked out and saw two men wearing sunglasses with thick, dark rims. Not that one. That's for the next case. Exactly as described by two previous witnesses, Samuel and Graham. I guess they encountered the same thing. They were wearing gray coats with brown shirts and no ties. The hair was down below their shoulders and was greenish, dark blonde, light brown in color, and their skin was golden olive. They appeared to be investigating the ground by the window and were carrying two large club-like objects with holes cut in them. The objects were made of a mauve plastic-like material. He was about ready to confront them about what they were doing on his lawn when they noticed him and jumped back toward the privacy hedge. According to the witness, he had seen the same two strange men on numerous occasions, but only had brief conversations outside with them only a couple of times. They never seemed to arrive in a car. The witness has also been experiencing vivid, strange dreams and sleep paralysis events since the encounters started. Apparently,
Sorry, we lost your audio for a second. Can you repeat?
Okay. According to the witness, he had seen the same two strange men on numerous occasions, but only had brief conversations outside with them a couple of times. They never seemed to arrive in a car. The witness also had been experiencing vivid, strange dreams and sleep paralysis events since the encounter started. Apparently, this witness had a UFO encounter before that, and we gotta assume these two entities or individuals are of the type of the Men in Black connected.
Yeah. Not the Air Force type.
No, these are kind of more weird. I mean,
yeah.
Honestly.
This at the very beginning, when you started reading this case, I got goosebumps because of the weird scratching sound outside the kitchen window. That's along with the Men in Black, that's just freaky deaky.
Sure is.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and go to the next one here.
That's the image for the next one, yeah.
And this is in Lesko, Bieszczady Mountains in Poland. The date is the 31st of May, 2018. The time, 2130 to 2200. And before the incident on May 31st, on April 21st, 2018, a witness, Monica, was praying in her room until late one night when she heard strange music coming from nowhere, like a choir of Mons. Is that right?
Well, maybe it's supposed to be nuns.
Of men?
Nuns, I imagine.
Nuns.
Yeah.
And she even opened the window, but the sounds had no direction or origin. On May 31st, late in the evening, a young woman had left home to pray the rosary at the nearby church. When she was in prayer, she noticed something peculiar about the church. There was a straight line or streak similar to a rainbow coming from the sky, which at that hour brightened the west side of the sky. After a while, at a distance of about 100 meters, she noticed something terrifying hovering above a nearby house. She saw two dark creatures, but clearly visible against the glow of the nearby village. The creatures were turned sideways over the chimney of the house. The creatures resembled descriptions of demons from medieval times. One of the creatures was shorter than the other, and details such as pointed ears, serrated heads, and horns were noted. Both figures had a short tail like the classic devil from Polish folklore. The figures hovered motionless, and the largest one appeared to have an eye on the back of its head, but she could not accurately determine this. Behind the house above which the creatures were hovering, there was a small tree that protrudes from the roof of the house. However, while the creatures were in sight, the tree was somehow not visible. Terrified, the witness left the area and has refused to provide additional information about the event. And this is a type E encounter.
I would imagine this is more given a religious interpretation to this encounter. But this is again from Polish researcher Eric Miatka.
Yeah, I noticed that it seems like many times, people tend to report their sightings of UFOs or humanoids or what have you based on whatever religious perspective they come from, if they're very religious, or if they're in a country that's, a Catholic country like Brazil or something like that. So a lot of times it's defined by their point of view based on their religion, like the Cash Landrum case is a good example.
Yes, correct. All right. Let's go to the next one. The next one's interesting. Is from Mexico, Ciudad, a place called Ciudad Frontera in Coahuila, state of Coahuila, Mexico. June 2018, in the evening, a witness reported seeing, that'll be for the next one, not this one.
Oh, okay.
The next one is also Mexico. The witness reported seeing a humanoid figure flying alongside her vehicle, sitting on what appeared to be a square platform. Strange. The figure was human-like and wore a red jumpsuit with cape. Like a Superman. It flew about 10 meters from the car, and she could hear what sounded like fire shooting from behind the platform. The humanoid was so close that she could hear the flapping of his cape. At one point, he turned to look at her and smiled. He had yellow, glowing eyes. The platform suddenly accelerated and soon disappeared in the direction of Rio Bravo with the figure. So this is weird. This is a type E encounter, a flying humanoid, but not your typical flying humanoid either. No wings. He was sitting on a platform. So it shows a flying humanoid with some kind of means of propulsion, that platform, whatever there was. Strange.
Yeah. Very strange. And then the next one is the one for which I have the
image.
The image all queued up here. So we'll go ahead and do one of those. And this is one of our familiar friends.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, the location is near Silletz, Oregon, June 6th of 2018, time 1930 hours. The main witness, a former Army veteran and police officer, had decided to go for a drive up the hills 5 miles from Silletz. That's a strange name. They were on a gravel road in the woods looking for wood to make themselves a bow. They went down the road, and one of the witnesses, Jay, saw some downed alder that could be used for firewood. While they started hearing a faint buzzing noise, they put it off as a bug in the car. But then out of the corner of his eye, he saw the most bizarre thing ever. It was about 100 to 120 feet away from the car. What he saw was a human-looking creature that was about 4 to 5 feet tall with pale gray skin. Its skin was so thin that it was almost transparent, and it was extremely thin. He saw it a total of 3 times, the first time for about 10 seconds. When he made eye contact with it, everything went silent. The birds stopped chirping, and everything became eerily quiet. This is known as the Oz effect.
The Oz effect, yeah.
Then it ran away. Then he saw it again when it came behind a nearby stump. He told the others that they should go up there and look around, and while checking around, the main witness saw the strange creature again. The creature then moved extremely quickly when it saw them, and it was completely silent when it moved. When they were talking amongst themselves, it got extremely quiet, and their voices began to echo a lot. Near the side of the first sighting, the sound that they heard resembled they found fur.
Yeah,
they resembled rabbit fur. It was black and brown, and it gave off a terrible odor. After a while, they decided to head back home. And this is also a Type E encounter.
Type E encounter, correct? Yeah. Siletz, that's in a little town there in the woods. Weird. All right, here we go. The next one is going to be Tacoma, Washington, July 12th, 2018. Greetings from Tepoztlan. Yeah, that's in Mexico.
And before you continue on, Wayutan asks, question for Albert. Do you have a favorite case? And if so, what?
There's many favorite cases. I remember I almost got 30,000 cases in my files.
Mm-hmm.
But to look for a favorite one, yeah, it is. Maybe later on I'll mention one of my favorite ones. I'll mention it later. Okay. This is the next case is from Tacoma, Washington, July 12, 2018, daytime. An absolutely amazing piece of video surfaced involving a flaming flying entity. I don't know if you've seen it. In the video, an orangish red light can be seen hovering in the sky. The people on the ground filming seem to have trouble describing what they are seeing. At one point, a man says, quote, "It looks like a damn human. It's shaped like a damn human. It looks like a person on fire," that was flying. Another man notes how it seemed to move from left to right in the sky before stopping and hovering. It begins to move closer to the man, eventually becoming obscure behind some trees. Around 2 minutes into the footage, there's a bluish flash and the object suddenly explodes, raining debris down on the street below. Screams can be heard in the background as the cameraman and his friend yell for everyone to move back. Move back, get back, quote, "Get back, you don't know what this is," end quote. The cameraman can be heard to say, quote, "It's flying everywhere." Another man says of the debris, which is confirmed by yet another man. Screams can be heard from somewhere off in the distance, possibly near the location where the object exploded. It's loud enough that one of the men comments, quote, "Something happened. As soon as that thing hit, that woman started screaming," end quote. There the video ends. It's unclear what happened here. The man filming notes that his phone is having trouble capturing it, as other present also note that their phones don't seem to be picking it up either. The cameraman described what sounded like a flaming humanoid. Mere seconds afterward, it exploded. What caused the explosion, nobody seems to know. Now, I seen the video, but for some reason, I was supposed to get the link. I think it's in YouTube. I didn't get it, but I want to see if I get it later. But this is from Jamie Bryan, Strange Encounters with Fiery Humanoids. He recounts several encounters with flaming humanoids like that.
And we do have another question.
Okay.
This is from Mr. M.H. At Cardinal Sin. Can I ask Albert if he has had any human mutilation cases in his research caused by humanoids or aliens?
Yes. I have such cases in my files.
I think we've read some of those.
Thank God there's not that many, but there are cases like that.
Yeah. All right. So this one is this graphic here.
This is like a well. Yeah.
The location is San Pedro de Ucamandua, Paraguay, July 16th, 2018, during the evening. A local 52-year-old woman was found alive at the bottom of a 38-meter deep well. The authorities were investigating what happened, but the woman had a strange tale to tell. According to her, a hairy entity entered her home, grabbed her by her arms, and dragged her to the well, which was located about 500 meters from the house. The woman was rescued from the well the next day by neighbors and family members. She was taken to the regional hospital, where it was found that fortunately she hadn't suffered any serious injuries since the well had plenty of water in it. Authorities had not commented on who the assailant could have been, but the woman is convinced that the creature was a mythical personage called El Pombero.
Yeah, El Pombero is
type E.
Type E. And it actually kidnapped her too. So El Pombero is a well-known in South America. It's like a gnome or a goblin type creature. Yeah. This actually came out in the news in Paraguay. All right, there we go. Let's move this next one here. Ooh, the next one's weird. There's an emissary. We go to Mexico here. Okay.
Let me pull that up here. This is creepy.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Here we go. This is from a little town called Santa Ana Salmimilulco in the state of Puebla, Mexico.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that easy. July 23rd, 2018, afternoon. In this small community located near the Popo volcano, Popocatépetl, the witness, 18-year-old Joshua, had just had a bad argument with his parents and walked out of the house. He was walking on a trail next to some cornfields as he wanted to relax and calm down. As he walked, he suddenly heard a strange sound, and right before the sound, he felt as if he was being watched from behind the corn stalks, from behind the corn. Feeling a bit nervous, he walked on towards a nearby river, intent of crossing it on top of a falling tree trunk. However, as he neared the river, he suddenly heard a loud gurgling sound behind him. Turning around, he saw what he described as a small humanoid figure about 1.40 meters tall. His skin tone was a light grayish-green color. Frightened, Joshua felt suddenly paralyzed. At this moment, he then heard a voice in his mind, which said, "Do not approach me. I am about ready to leave.
I won't hurt you.
I won't hurt you, but if you try anything or approach me, you will die." So this is what the humanoid told him. Joshua felt a voice right in his brain and felt some type of energy envelop him. The creature suddenly took one step towards Joshua, who startled, stepped back, not knowing what to expect. The creature then looked around as if it's looking for a place to go. At this point, Joshua could clearly see the creature's face, which had two large oval-shaped eyes, a round dark mouth, and two slits where the nose would have been. On top of his head, he had a sort of a crest, like in the image there you could see, which went down the dorsal spine. It was very thin, with 3-finger hands. The humanoid suddenly assumed a quadruple position. He got down on all fours and swiftly ran towards the cornfield. Stunned, Joshua watched the stalks move to the side as the creature ran through them. Totally confused, Joshua began retracing his steps back to where he had come from. After walking for about 7 minutes, Joshua saw what appeared to be a round bluish orb hovering over the fields. As he watched, the orb suddenly appeared to dissolve and vanish. In a state of panic, Joshua walked back into town, and sat on the ground in front of the local church, possibly in a state of shock. Some friends walked by and asked Joshua what was wrong, and he told them what he had seen. They did not believe him. He went back home and could not sleep that night. His extremely religious family, after hearing his story, accused him of taking drugs and of using a Ouija board. He was taken to several area psychiatrists and hospitals, and they even attempted several exorcisms on Joshua, his family. He thought he was possessed by the devil, or like they accused him of delving with a Ouija board. And this is from La Señal, Historias para Dormir. It's a YouTube channel that covers a lot of weird stories like this. So I wonder what would have happened if Joshua would have approached the entity. I wonder if we would have killed him. Weird.
Yeah. I'm going to check out the... Yeah, I guess if people want to check that out, we can put the case video into the chat, although it looks like it's in Spanish.
Yeah, it is in Spanish, yeah.
So I'll go ahead and do that. And we also have some questions for you.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and put that. That's the link there. And Anti-Derivative Jill has dropped the link for the giveaway into the chat. So if you would like to win a copy of the book that we're dipping into tonight from Albert, an ebook, go ahead and follow that link and we'll put your name on the spinner wheel. Now we have a couple of questions here.
Okay.
And I want to make sure I get to the first one. So Radioactive says, Cardinal Sin, can you ask Albert if he has seen any geographical bias, example, specific countries as to where these events occur?
I have noticed that in some countries there's a type of entity seen more often than the other type of entity. Like in Malaysia, there's a lot of reports of tiny entities which are hardly reported anywhere else. They have been reported in other countries, but not as frequently as in Malaysia. In the U.S., the gray type entity is much more common than any other type. Or if you go to Russia or Poland, they have different type of entities there. In Spain, there's they run the gamut. They are giants, they're small, and in the UK, there's a lot of Nordic type encounters. There's I have noticed that South America, forget it. There's all types of different
everything. Yeah,
everything down there too.
The kitchen sink,
the whole caboodle. Yeah.
And Mr. MH asks, Cardinal Sin, I'd like to ask Albert about a specific case where a guy witnessed a group of aliens entering a house from a distance. He saw them leave. And then when he entered the house, there was a mutilated person. Mr. MH has a lot of curiosity about human mutilations. Are you familiar with that case?
I remember the case. I wish it's from Mexico. I believe is from the year 2000. Does he remember? Let me see if I could find it here. A witness observed several small entities enter a neighbor's house. And then after that, there was reports that the neighbors were found dead and strangely mutilated. The police arrived and they closed the scene. And of course, there was hush-hush type of deal. But it was assumed that whoever those little men or entities were the ones involved in the mutilation. Now, if I can remember the date, I could look it up. But it's just like I said.
Why don't you do that, and I'll go ahead with the next one.
Sure. Okay.
And this one is in Alcalá de las Gazuelas, Cadiz, Spain.
Cadiz, yeah.
July 26th, 2018, 3 a.m. 2 security guards working for a well-known business were alerted to an alarm in the above location. They immediately went to check and found nothing amiss, and before leaving, they decided to stop and smoke a cigarette. They exited their vehicle and began taking photos of the scenery, which in the area was impressive. Suddenly, one of the guards noticed a black humanoid shape moving in the brush about 1 meter from their location. At first, he thought it was a bird, but looking closely, he realized that whatever the creature was, it was completely silent. Taking a closer look, he saw another similar figure moving alongside the first one. Frightened, he ran to the car to notify his partner, who also saw two strange black figures. They both got into their vehicles and drove quickly away from the area. And that's a type E.
Type E encounter, yes. Yeah. I haven't found that case yet, but I'll keep on looking. If you like, I just can't remember the year. Mr. MH, does he remember the year of the case?
Let's see. He says it's a phenomenon which is ignored by the mainstream. It's all about the cattle and animal mutilations, but the human mutilations are covered up largely. I have noticed, following David Pilates' work from Missing 411,
Yes.
that he's uncovered some human mutilation cases that tend to get covered up, as Mr. MH mentioned.
Correct. Yeah. I think yeah. I could understand why they'll cover those things up, because they'll.
Oh yeah, they're terrifying.
Yeah. I can't find it now at this point, but I know it occurred in Mexico. I can't remember the location, but it occurred in 2000
Well,
something.
We can work on that after the show, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
For next time.
Alrighty. We'll go to the next one, but I do remember the case. We go now to a place called Corsicana in Texas, August 1st, 2018, in the afternoon. An anonymous truck driver was driving along the Corsicana Highway in Corsicana, Texas, one afternoon when he saw a strange figure standing alongside the highway. Said the truck driver, he witnessed a person walking dressed strangely. When I passed and looked at my mirror, it was gone, end quote. Interestingly, the driver had a dashcam video playing and was able to capture several seconds of footage as he drove by the figure. The video has gone viral in the internet and shows what does appear to be a greenish gray humanoid figure with his face turned towards oncoming traffic, and arms extended almost as if thumbing a ride. I know Preston Dennett covered that. I haven't seen the video myself, but that's where that's the source I got it from, Preston Dennett.
And why does his name ring a bell? Was he involved in the Philadelphia experiment or Montauk?
Who? Dennett?
Yeah. Preston Dennett was the researcher that uncovered the Montauk case, right?
I'm not sure about that, but I know he's written several books. Mostly, he's also into humanoid encounters. I don't know if he had anything to do with the Montauk. I think Peter Moon and some other guy, but I don't think
his
Preston
name
Dennett.
Just seems really familiar, and I can't. Preston Dennett. For some reason, my mind keeps going back to the Philadelphia experiment. But
okay.
So we'll go ahead and set up for the next one.
Okay.
And this is the location is Corsicana, Texas.
No, that's the one I just read.
Oh, you just
go
did.
to the next one, yeah.
Of course, I'll get the one in Spanish. Location: Ria de Pontevedra, Galicia, Spain.
You got it.
Date: August 11th, 2018, during the afternoon. The main witness, Kima, was out boating with his family near the coast. There were a total of 5 persons aboard. Suddenly, his daughter yelled that there was a drone overhead, and Kima grabbed a pair of binoculars and realized that it wasn't a drone or a balloon. It was a humanoid figure that was floating about 30 meters above the sea. It was completely silent and always floated or flew at the same height against the wind. According to Kima, it was a small figure, completely black in color, a deep black, with a large, round, dark head without any defined facial features. It moved its arms and legs in a very strange manner. It was making rapid movements like an epileptic, which frightened Kema. I've seen an epileptic seizure, and they are frightening. Strangely, at times, while looking through the binoculars, the figure seemed to change shape into a sort of Medusa. Kema added that the figure was no more than a meter in height. It floated upright with its arms and legs oriented toward the water. Kema also saw an intense red light on the creature's chest. Moments later, Kema grabbed his cell phone and took several photos. One of the photos shows a distant figure, and curiously, the second photo shows two identical figures instead of one. They never saw the second figure, it only appeared on the photo. Everyone on the boat saw the strange creature. Eventually, it moved toward the shore and disappeared in the horizon. And this is another Type E encounter.
Yeah, some type of flying humanoid also. This is from David Cuevas. He wrote a book recently in Spanish called Los Sin Rostro, which means the faceless ones, about different type of humanoid encounters. Yeah, very weird.
And Mr. M.H. says, I'm sorry, I don't know the year, Albert.
But I do remember. I think it's either 2000, but I couldn't find. I think it might be 2003. I'll see if I'll look it up.
We'll look it up and have it ready for next month.
No problem. The next one, we go to Russia again. We go to Grozny area in the North Caucasus in Russia. August 17, 2018, around 2 a.m. The witness, a military pensioner, I guess is retired, and head of security for a local business, had gone into the mountains to hunt for wolf. He was alone without his dog in his SUV. On August, he went into the mountains and was successful in shooting a wolf. However, he strayed too deep into the mountains and returned very late to his SUV. On the second hour of the night of August 17, he was driving along a mountain road when a bright object flashed across the sky at an altitude of more than 500 meters. It looked like a signal flare, glowed the same way, and descended at the same speed, but the size was much larger. The fire was about 3 meters in diameter. It burned for 3 seconds, illuminating the slopes of the mountains, and went out before reaching the ground. The witness thought it couldn't have been a meteorite, and it presented different characteristics. So he decided to take a look in the area where the object has fallen. Above the location where the object had fallen, there was a road, and after driving about 5 miles on the road, he arrived at the location and went down the hill. Below was a forested area where the object allegedly fell. After walking about 100 meters, he saw two people walking in his direction on the left side of the track. Surprised, the witness stopped. He described the figures as a man and a woman, about 20 years old, very tall, with long white hair, both of them. They then approached him. The girl was dressed in a long dress, and the man was wearing classic trousers, I guess jeans, and a shirt. The clothing was unusual for people being in an isolated mountainside, according to the witness, in the middle of nowhere. They seemed like ordinary people, except that they were very tall, about 2 meters, with white blonde hair. The area was about 100 kilometers from the nearest settlement. So these people, he doesn't know where he came from. To the witness' surprise, the two people immediately seemed unusual to him. As they approached, they said hello. They spoke Russian without an accent. The girl, smiling kindly, says something like, "You probably," quote, "you probably decided to see what fell in the forest. Do not go there. It's very dangerous for you. That is ours, and we will remove it soon, and everything will be clean by morning," end quote. This is what the girl told. He wanted to ask who they were, but for some reason he didn't ask. He thanked them for the warning and returned to his vehicle. He immediately left. From a distance, he then could see glowing dots of light flying over the area. Nothing unusual happened after the incident. The witness did not pay attention to the stranger's footwear, but could clearly hear the rustle of grass from their footsteps. Their eyes were very light. The hair was very white, almost gray. It flowed in the wind. The men's hair was shoulder length. He thought that their voice was a little unusual, but he could not say why. The night had been very dark, cloudy. He had been carrying a very powerful flashlight. The woman was wearing what appeared to be an evening dress. The fabric appeared viscose, gray, with a purple tint. The man was wearing light gray trousers and a white shirt. Nothing out of the ordinary for the city, but extremely unusual for this isolated area. And this is from there's a site called UFO SETI in Russia that they have thousands of reports there. They update it every so often.
Is this the image for that case?
No, that's a different
Okay.
image. That's from I believe from a Brazilian case.
Okay.
And you got to like I put in the question here: who were the strangers who told the witness not to approach the area, since
Yeah.
it was dangerous for him? And why would it be dangerous for him? Weird.
It's a good question. Very, very interesting. We have some more questions for you. Fellow Chucker asks, any case phenomena around Iowa since the Plum Island facility was moved there?
I know there's a lot of cases in Iowa, but I don't know what year was the Plum facility moved there. So I'm not really sure if you knew the year when it was moved, but I know there's been a lot of cases in Iowa, especially in the 70s and 60s.
Yeah, I would probably recommend for folks to look up the year if you can before you ask the question, so that Albert has a chance of looking it up in his database. All right, so let's move forward here. And
yeah, the image is for the next case. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the one in Brazil?
Yeah, Brazil.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
I will do my best. Location near Campo Grande, Mato Grosso, Brazil. Date August 17th, 2018. Time 6 a.m. Businessman Roberto Maya, not his real name, 45, was driving around 20 kilometers from the capital on a side road when he saw an unusual light in a nearby pasture. Believing it was an aircraft landing at the nearby Campo Grande Air Base, he decided to satisfy his curiosity and see what it was all about. He parked his car and walked toward the pasture, and there he saw a triangular-shaped object made of some gray metal which gave off a strong light. It was hovering low over the pasture. As he watched, an elevator-type door opened, and from inside, 3 people came out. They didn't go down a ladder, they floated outside. Maya described them as tall beings with light red skin and human-like features, about 2 meters tall. Their clothing was like plastic and very tight fitting to the body. Somewhat scared, he decided to return to the vehicle. As he came across 2 of the beings who had come out of the triangular-shaped vehicle. He didn't feel any kind of dread or fear. They were very tall, and they were in front of him, talking in a language that he didn't understand. Then they pointed a rod of light resembling an LED light that passed through his body. He didn't feel a thing. They then left and went back inside their ship, which disappeared at very high speed. According to the witness, he now feels like a 20-year-old again. His blood pressure now is controlled and his leg pain is gone. He hasn't suffered from any more health problems since. And this is the type B encounter. And Albert, I would just like to say, for one, I would like to be abducted by those aliens in particular.
Yeah, I need them too. I got leg pain and knee pain.
My back, don't even get me started. Tripping Orc says, if I see a spacecraft, I'm poking around. I don't care if I get fried. And that's in response to Wayutan saying, do you think it's a good idea to go poking around a likely radioactive spacecraft? Well, some of them are radioactive, I guess.
Well, yeah, of course. There's been a lot of incidents where they checked the area of a landing of a UFO and there's been radioactive left behind.
Mhm.
Radioactivity, sorry, left behind.
And this, you mentioned there's a cure claim.
Yeah, because he claims that he was cured of his blood pressure
Mm-hmm.
and his leg pain. I guess these aliens, whoever they didn't say a word, but they just pointed that light at him, and that's it. Sometimes you wonder whether certain people are cured, other people are not. You know what I mean?
Mr. MH says, Albert, I found the date, March 2001, Jalisco, Mexico.
Jalisco, yes.
Jalisco.
Okay.
So
Was the case.
that'll help you look it up later.
Alrighty.
We're not quite at, we've already done 2001, but we can get back to that next month.
Yeah, we could do that. Next month, I'll remember. Yeah. Okay. The next case is to unpronounceable name in France. Saraguemenet. In the state in Moselle, France, end of August 2018. The time evening. On a beautiful summer evening on the forest road leading towards town, a woman driver sees a red-orange glow through the trees and stops the vehicle. She then notices the presence of a large sphere which, with three tall luminous humanoids next to it. She could see faces on the humanoids with large almond-shaped eyes and a V-shaped mouth in the shape of a bird's beak. The scene seemed frozen without a sound. Frightened, the witness flees the area. We should have more information, but this is from a story published in the journal La Lettre de Antimon, number 34, investigated by Fabrice Kirchner and a D. Becker.
And Canadian Spider-Man says, I'm in Jalisco now.
He is?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's vacationing in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
So you never know. All right.
Jalisco.
So moving right along. This one is in Yonezawa City, Yamagata Prefecture, Japan. Date October 4th, 2018. Time 21:30 hours. Two men had gone fishing for bass at the mountain reservoir when they reportedly encountered a strange being all dressed in black with large fiery red eyes and wearing all black. The incident occurred at a mountain road leading to the lake or reservoir. While fishing, the men heard a sort of rattling noise, and both went to check what it was, illuminating the area with their flashlights. Whatever it was about 20 to 30 meters, and at first seemed to be crouching down. Is that right? 20 to 30 meters?
30 meters away. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Away.
I was like, that's huge.
Yeah. No.
It then stood up, and they saw the silhouette of a slim, long-legged man that looked like a beast. It was all black, and when it turned around, two eyes about the size of shining softballs became visible. It stood at more than 2 meters in height. Stunned, the witnesses ran to their car and watched the entity slowly approach their location. So they hurriedly started the car and drove away from the area. And this is a Type E.
From Japan.
Yeah. They have some weird ones in Japan.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Next one, we go to and that's from a Japanese UFO site. There. We go to Cuba now. It's, from where I'm from, it's Playa Ancon, which is in Santi Espiritus province, Cuba. January 1st, 2019, the time was night. After a night of drinking and dancing, two friends, they were tourists, decided to go to the beach for a little bit. It was nearly pitch black outside, and they were just walking around on the shore, talking and looking at the stars. Suddenly, one of the friends calls the other and tells him to look down the shore. What they saw was a radiantly glowing white figure about 300 meters away. He had long legs and a head standing about seven feet. resembles a Japanese one. His friend said that before he had seen it, it was just standing there, and for a moment it looked as though it had stepped into the water, submerged completely, and then stepped back onto the beach. They stared at it for a couple of moments, and then it started taking slow steps towards them. They both became frightened and ran back to the hotel without looking back. They were both rattled and did not sleep for most of the night. Both returned to the beach on a few other nights around the same time, but never saw that creature again. This was in the Phantom and Monsters website from Lon Sticklers.
Lon Strickler is great.
Yeah, Strickler.
He's been on the show. He writes great books.
He does.
I think is he an admin in your group on Facebook?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, is. That's a strange case. Okay, so we will move on. And is this the one that has this?
Yeah,
image?
That's the next one. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and pull this one up just a little bit so we can see it better. I'm going to try anyway. There we go. That's the important part. All right. Okay. So this is in Ilsa Santiago between Ensenada and Punta Lara, Buenos Aires, Argentina, January 21st, 2019 at 0:20 a.m. On the night of the eclipse, a family from Mar del Plata, consisting of Christian, 43, his wife Mirta, 33, his stepdaughter, 19, and his nephew, 12, and their 3-month-old daughter, were on their way to the pier located at the Military Naval School in order to obtain a perfect view of the red moon eclipse. Once there, as they waited for the eclipse, it began to get a little chilly, so they decided to drive back home and see the eclipse from there. With Christian at the wheel and the others in the back seat, they began their drive home. Minutes after a long stretch of the asphalt road, Christian noticed something strange, a figure in the distance. It was a tall, slim figure over 2 meters in height, which was walking on the left side of the road and was clearly illuminated by the headlights of the vehicle. It seemed to have its back to them. Surprised, Christian slowed the vehicle and dimmed the headlights to obtain a better look. At this point, the strange figure crosses the road, walking normally, and then disappears into the thick foliage on the side of the road. As they drove by the location where the figure had disappeared, they didn't see anything strange or see the figure again. His figure refused to stop the vehicle to search.
Oh, Christian.
He refused to stop the vehicle to search.
Right,
All 5 occupants of the vehicle had seen the figure. Due to the darkness in the area, they didn't get a good look at the features of the figure, which had been about 40 to 50 meters from them. What they saw was a human-like figure about 2 meters in height, slim build, and wearing a tight-fitting, opaque gray outfit. The area around the head seemed darker than the rest of the body. Curiously, it had its arms somewhat outstretched forward by the torso area. The day before, the residents of Villa Rubencito, also located in the island, had seen a strange greenish object over the area. And later the same morning of the encounter, a resident of Los Hornos in La Plata reported seeing a strange object with green lights heading toward Rio de la Plata. She was able to take a couple of photos of the object with her cell phone. And this is a type E encounter. I tell you what, Albert, you are making my Spanish better and better.
Better and better. Yeah, there you go. So I'm teaching you Spanish at the same time.
That's right.
There you
go. Is it? I hope it's getting better.
I think it is.
Check the comments real quick here.
Okay.
There's lots of hailing going on. And PS2 Chipper, good night. Thanks for being here. Mr. MH says, kind of looks like that video from India of a humanoid that looks like that supposedly walking the streets and filmed by guys on motorbikes. I haven't heard about that.
I heard about it. It supposedly was actually a escape mental patient or something. That's what I heard. I'm not sure though. Yeah.
Okay. So is this next one yours or mine?
It will be mine. Let's
Okay.
see, the next one. We go to Colombia now. A place called Dawa in Valle del Cauca, Colombia, March 2019 evening. In this mountainous region, a 4-year-old girl reportedly disappeared from her home for 4 hours and was later found in perfect health about 4 kilometers from her house. She told authorities that a little boy, quote, had guided her, making her walk. Her family, police, and firemen participated in the search. Before being returned to her family, the young girl was taken to a local clinic where she was examined by doctors and found to be in perfect condition. Neighbors and residents reported that the young girl had been lured away by a duende, or forest sprite. That's another name for a gnome or a goblin in South America also. Reportedly, it was not the first time this type of incident had occurred in the area. There were also reports of duendes or gnomes or goblins harassing the cattle and other domestic animals. This is again from researcher Eugenio Tate and his website. But you got to wonder, a lot of the people that go missing, the Politas describes in the forest, maybe they've been taken by similar type creatures. A lot of the younger ones that go missing and never found again, or are found like this girl, kilometers away from the house or miles away from their location.
Yeah. It is 1 minute to the end of eligibility to enter the giveaway. So if you would like to win a copy of the book that we are dipping into tonight, just follow that URL. We have 1 minute left. Mr. MH says, those duende stories are rife in South America.
Yes. Many of them.
And Canadian Spider-Man says, at Nancy Malcolm, hit the link above to enter the book giveaway. And that's the link there. I think you may have to type it in, actually. I'm not sure. Let's go on to the next case. And this one is in Buenos Aires, Argentina. April 28th, 2019. The time, 23:30 hours. Interesting how many of these happen at 23:30 hours. Mr. A.R., who was involved in a previous similar encounter in 2006, reported that on a cloudy night, he had taken his dog out into the second-story terrace roof. While there, he looked at the sky and thought it was kind of strange. He saw low-hanging clouds, and where he was a strong wind. As he looked east toward the River Platte, he saw coming out of the low clouds what he first described as a white glow, and then out of the glow he saw something flying in a curved trajectory around the clouds. As he watched, he realized that these were two huge winged humanoid figures, masculine in appearance, very pale in skin tone, and bodies that exuded a bright glow. They had immense wings which moved in harmonious fashion. Their faces were human, stoic in appearance, like statues. They were thin but muscular. He saw no apparent clothing. According to the witnesses, they looked like marble statues. The figures then followed the curved path and disappeared back into the cloud cover. And this is a type E encounter, and this one was translated by you.
Yeah, this is another flying humanoid encounter. We have so many of those, especially lately. It's been a lot of those. Yeah, interesting. Okay, we have time for another one. Let me see.
Yeah, just enough.
Okay, the next one we go to the Netherlands or Holland. a place called Breda. May 12, 2019, at night, a young Dutch couple told authorities that they were the victims of an extraterrestrial abduction. According to Jesse Kroos, he and his wife, Dinka, were awakened by a very strong light that lit up their room. Quote, it seemed like daytime, but the light was bluish and very hot. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, I was lying on a very cold metal table, and several gray beings with big black eyes were looking at me. As your typical gray abduction, said Jesse. Dinka reported the same, and added that the beings said she should remain calm. They spoke. She said they spoke to me inside my head that I should be calm, according to Dinka. When the couple woke up, it was daytime, and they found marks on their bodies. According to Jesse, quote, I'm sure we were victims of an alien abduction, end quote. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we have another question from Nancy Malcolm. Albert,
Okay.
do you know
Yeah.
if there is an investigation about whether Mothman or Mothmen use Chicago due to empty buildings and come there in groups for nesting at certain times each year?
I'm not sure that is the reason they go there, but there's been so many reports from the Chicago lately that Strickler has mentioned. A lot of them are seem to be near O'Hare Airport for some reason, and they have been seen flying over the buildings and in downtown Chicago and jumping down from buildings, falling down, then taking off, gliding away. I don't know. If they're nesting there, or hopefully it's not an omen of something that's going to happen, like what happened in Point Pleasant back in '67. But it's really hard to say.
Okay, it looks like we are experiencing technical difficulties with the spinner wheel. Oh,
Yeah.
nope. I think we are ready. So if a mod wants to come on and help us with the spinner wheel, we will go ahead and give away some books. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right. Any mod at all. Come on down. And Nancy says, thank you for answering my question. Mr.
Welcome.
MH says, the Indrid cold factor in the Mothman case was very interesting.
Yes.
A lot of people have mixed feelings about the Indrid cold thing.
I think he had a genuine encounter at first. Later on, there was a lot of other stuff that happened that I'm not sure. But according to Keel, around the same time, there was another incident very similar to what Derenberger encountered in the same area, and other people were stopped by a similar craft on the ground and similar entity. All right, let's go.
And Don McDouglas says, Albert, I hope it's not me, so he won't have trouble shipping to Canada.
Well, it's an ebook, so it shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, it's an ebook, so it'll be just fine. So, hey, win as much as you want. And ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Darius Munchausen.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you? Albert,
Hello.
Thanks for coming back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, Darius.
Yeah, well, I am proud as always to spin this wheel. How many prizes are we giving away?
We're giving away two ebooks.
Woo. Hold on.
And Mr. MH says, Albert's books are the best.
Thank you.
Tolfer says, please remove my name from the wheel. I have a copy. So, Darius, if Tolfer's on the wheel, please remove him.
Well, I'll tell you what. I have to spin first, but if we land on him, then we'll just spin again.
That sounds good enough. And here is the wheel that we speak of. Now, this is the part of the show that makes me a little nauseous, because when I see my head spinning around like The Exorcist, I get a little blood curdling feeling in my tummy. So, anyway, engage.
All right, here we
Good
go. Luck.
Oh, my
White
God.
Oh,
Oh, wait.
all right.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Why you hating?
So, Wayuton, please send me
Wayuton.
your email address. I guess I'll get it, but you'll need to email me here, bill@sunflower.com. Just send me an email there, and I will forward you the ebook from Albert.
There you, yeah,
And
and I'll send
Darius,
you the
you need to
information.
let me know what's going on. I'm sorry, Albert. What did you say?
And I'll send you the ebooks for you,
Yeah.
so you can forward them.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Applause. Lots of congratulations. So, Wayuton, congratulations. Okay, Darius, where are we on the wheel at this point?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 7 names remaining.
And Tolfer is still on there.
Yeah. I think possibly only Jill can edit the list in the master.
Okay.
I should point out that the book, those, I don't have a book out yet, so I don't know how he has those cases, unless Alrighty, it's only the ebooks available, and they're not published.
Right.
Okay.
Interesting. So these are basically galleys or advanced versions or before the actual book comes out.
Right.
So these are not only rare, but don't really exist. That's really, really cool. And Canadian Spider-Man says, "Good to see you, Tony Stark. Greetings." All right, let's spin her again.
All right, spin number 2.
Here we go.
Don't get dizzy.
Nancy
Malcolm.
Yes.
Woo.
Nancy, congratulations.
Congratulations.
And again, Nancy, if you will, and Tolfer says, keep my name on then. So,
all right.
We did. And again, please, Nancy, send me an email to gil@sunflower.com, and I will send you along a copy of the ebook from Albert. And there's lots of congratulations for Nancy. Excellent win there. Congratulations, etc., etc. So, thanks very much for the help with the wheel, Darius. Now, what's going on with you? Is there anything that you would like to plug or talk about?
Tune in next week for Into the Fringe.
Or?
I do, but it's different format kind of stuff.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, I do Mondays with That 70s Rock Fan. It's only talk and roll.
That's a show I see come across my feed a lot.
Yeah. Well, you've been there a couple times.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
Been there. Yeah.
Sometimes it's the ones that are most low key that end up being the most fun. You know how it goes.
And Albert, is there anything you would like to promote?
Well, I still got my books in Amazon up to 2015. I'm trying to publish my next book. I haven't been able to, for some reason, it's been a lot of problem. I haven't been able to do it. I want to set up a website so I can have my cases, available for everyone to see. Because in my books, there's only 50% of my database in my book, or maybe less. I have so much, information that I want to share. So that's what I want to do.
Remember, Albert, stick around after the show is over for just a little bit, and we'll try and hook you up with an IT person and do a little conversation.
Okay.
And Mr. MH says, can't wait for the next book. Wayutan says, I just sent you the email. Very good. That's fantastic. And of course, we're going to have Albert back next month. And next month, we're going to be talking about UFOs over Florida, correct?
Or we could do 2020 to 2022.
Oh, you have those cases?
Yeah, I got cases there too. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
So the Florida book will be, I guess, the one after that.
yeah, we could do that after that. Yeah.
And Don McDouglas says, thanks as always, Albert.
You're welcome.
And the Bodhisattva Kid says you could do a YouTube short for each one of your cases. Well, that is the plan, actually. Keep up the good work. And Nancy Malcolm wants to know what the email was again. It's Gil, Gil, at sunflower.com, right there. I was an early adopter. My name is Gil. I live in Kansas. The state flower is sunflower. So it's Gil at sunflower.com.
Well, that's why it's sunflower.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Yeah. And knowing is half the battle.
And Tripping Orc says, great show tonight. The Bodhisattva Kid says, for some reason, my mouse does strange things. Says, thanks, Albert. Great show. Tripping Orc says, great show tonight. Nancy Malcolm says, thank you. You're quite welcome. And Canadian Spider-Man says, thanks for being here, everyone. And thank you, Canadian Spider-Man, and everyone in the chat. Appreciate all the support. Thank you to the new members tonight. And we will see you next time. And for now, it's Cardinal Sin